James Watson, molecular biologist, genetics, and zoologist, was born April 6, 1928. He died in 1958. The other scientists that I'll be talking about, Francis Crick, English molecular biologist, biophysics, and neuroscientist, was born June 8 in 1916 in Weston Fanville, the United Kingdom. He died July 28 in 2004 in San Diego, California. The discovery they both made was the chemical structure of DNA. The experiment that they showed was that each strand of the DNA molecule was a template for the other. During cell division, the two strands separate, and that on each strand, any other half is built, just like the one before. This way, DNA can reproduce itself without changing its structure, except for the occasional errors or mutations. Crick then concentrated on the biological central domain, explaining that the flow of information from RNA to DNA to protein. Francis began to work in 1947 in Cambridge University. By 1949, he had moved and he was working at the Medical Research Council. And then in 1951, Watson joined the research. Franklin, English chemist and X-ray crystallographer, who made critical contributions to the understanding of the fine molecule DNA structure. She was born July 25th in 1920 in Notting Hill, London, England. She died April 16th in 1958 in Chelsea, London, England. She died from ovarian cancer because of the radiation of the X-rays that she was studying. Her discovery was DNA double helix. The experiment consisted of Franklin still continuing on working to refine her X-ray images, using finer DNA fibers and arranging them differently for her chromatography. DNA shown in the X-ray images, a dry A form and a wetter B form. Because of each X-ray, chromatography had to represent or be exposed for over 100 hours to form an image. The drier A form seemed likelier to produce images in more detail, but Franklin set aside the B form to study later. But she noted that the B form formed images appeared to show a definite helical structure, and that there were two clear strands visible in the image she labeled in photo 51 before she filed it away. Even though you don't know this, because she died earlier, she wasn't given credit for what she had accomplished. And James Watson and Francis Crick were given credit for what she had discovered because she died early, and they were given the award Nobel Prize because she had died. Armand Chargaff is an Australian biochemist who immigrated to the United States during the Nazi era. He was a professor of biochemistry at the Columbia University Medical School. He was born August 11th in Austria-Hungary. He died June 20th in New York City. The discovery that he made was the number of guanine units equals the number of cytosine units, and the number of adenine units equals the number of thymine units. That the composition of the DNA varies from one species to another. In the experiment, he fractionated out nuclei from cells. He then isolated the DNA from the nuclei and broke it down into its constituent nucleic acids. Then, using paper chromatography, he separated the Pyrenees and the Pyrenees. This was done on the basis of the solubility of the substance being analyzed. Papers deepened into the solubility of the substance and into different components of the solution. It travels distances up and farther up and farther up. Then the most soluble components travel farther and farther up until they reach the driest section of the light of the different characteristics, wavelength. He was able to determine how much of which bases were presented in the DNA by this experiment. Alfred Hershey, American Nobel Prize winner, bacteriologist, and geneticist, was born on December 4th in 1908. He died of May 22nd in 1997. Martha Chase, American genetics known for being a member of the 1952 team, they were both scientists that worked together. They created an experiment saying that the viral DNA, that is a genetic code material, which gets injected into a host bacterium cell, had been called Escherichia coli. Oswald Avery was an American bacteriologist whose research helped assert that the DNA is the substance responsible for heredity. He was born on October 27th in 1877 in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. He died in February 21st, 1955. Avery discovered that the nucleic acid DNA stores and transmits the genetic information from one generation to an organism to the next. Avery and his colleagues made an extract from the heat-killed bacteria. They then carefully treated the extract with enzymes that destroyed the proteins, the lipids, the nucleic acid, RNA, and the carbohydrates. The transformation still occurred. Since these molecules had been destroyed, they were not responsible for the transformation. Avery did this experiment again, but this time with the DNA in the abstract. This time, the transformation did not occur, only concluding that the DNA was the transferring factor. He attended the University of Colgate and the Columbia University in the years of 1900 to 1907. Frederick Griff was a British bacteriologist whose main focus was on epidemiology and pathology of bacterial pneumonia. He was born in 1879 in London, England. He died in 1941. His discovery was on transformation. He then used 2 strains of bacteria to infect the mice. The first type, which is smooth, was covered with a polysaccharide capsule. It protected it from the host immune system. The second strain, which is rough, didn't have the capsule, but was still protected from the host immune system. The bacteria from the smooth strain was extinguished by the heat, and what was added to the rough strain bacteria. With neither harmed the mice on its own, when blended, the mice died. He concluded that the type rough strain had been transformed with the lethal 3 smooth strain. He attended the medical school of Oxford University in 1910. He also attended the University of Liverpool in 1901,